Hello and welcome everybody to this week's edition of the Travel Coffee Break. I'm Alistair Mackenzie and I'm here every week, as you know, and this week I've got several people joining because we thought we'd talk about what's coming up in the short term. We've got the TBEX Travel Blogger Conference coming up next week, and then as we go into November we've got the World Travel Market in London. So the idea was that we'd talk about some of that, and particularly from the point of view of getting the most out of it. For those people who've maybe not been to one or the other, then it's an opportunity to ask questions if you want to. If you're watching this on the live feed on the G Plus page, then you'll see that there is a questions little button. It's top right corner of your screen, and if you click on that, you can ask live questions, and we can answer them as they come in. So, without further ado, we haven't got everybody at the moment, but let me introduce those that I've got. First of all, Steve Keenan, well known to many people, is one of the partners who run Travel Perspective, which is well, Steve, you describe what you are.
Alistair, we are an editorial consultancy helping the travel industry to tell stories in social and digital, having enjoyed a period of print.
And next to him, Paul Ferrugia is a well-known travel blogger and goes to many of these events. So, Paul, just tell us about what you guys do.
So we've got a website called Global Help Swap, and it's all about real travel and real experiences. So we tend to not take many fan trips. We tend to kind of do it on our own back and try and keep it as authentic as possible. Karen, my partner, can't be here, unfortunately, because she's in Sweden at the moment, working.
Okay. Karen, as we all know, is actually the brains behind the organisation.
I'm the pretty face.
Yeah, we got Paul, so there we go. And Dylan Lowe, again, probably needs no introduction to many people, but well-established travel blogger and is globetrotting pretty much all of the time, except at the moment, I think, Dylan, you're at home.
I actually am, with new curtains in the background. So yeah, I run a website called The Travelling Editor, and I am a travel and food blogger and writer, and yeah, I've been to quite a few of these events now. This is going to be my 5th WTM upcoming, and 7th TBEX, surprisingly, where this time around I'm actually going to be on stage presenting with my fellow travel writer Jen Leo about how to make the most out of TBEX and other travel events.
Excellent. Okay. I'm hoping that we're going to be joined momentarily, as they say, by Rick Calvert, who's the CEO of Blog World, which is the sort of the parent organisation for TBEX Travel Blogger Exchange, which, as you say, is going to be in Athens, and he's going to preview some of the things that are going to be going on. And of course, if he doesn't turn up, then all we should know about TBEX is that Dylan's going to be speaking. So. Also joining us, one or two others, including Kerwin, my namesake, Kerwin Mackenzie, who is at the moment saying, "Hi, I'm here, everyone," on the questions thing. So, Kerwin, the best thing for you to do, mate, is I've sent an invite to you through email, and I think I sent that to, I forget which email address it was now. But the other thing you could do is if you go to the post that's in Facebook on the Global Bloggers Network, I've posted the manual invite to get in there. Same applies to you, Rick. You've just written in there as well. The invite should be live in the in that post on Global. What's it called? Global Bloggers Network, GBN, on Facebook. And if you look in your in tray, I have mailed it to you as well. And if you click on that, it should bring you into the hangout itself. Okay, so let's hope that they'll be joining us soon. In the meantime, Steve, let's start with you since we've got you here. What's the program this year at World Travel Market for you guys?
Same old. Well, no, obviously not. Change speakers and that sort of thing. But 3 days: Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Not doing so many seminars this year. I think we did about 20 odd last year, which is an awful lot. We're doing about 14, I think, this year, and got some good names. We've got Facebook back, Lee McCabe, who went down very well last year. He's telling us all about the science and how much you need to spend to get any results. So it's all very practical stuff. It's what people need to know these days. We've got BuzzFeed coming along. That'll be interesting. First time we've had them talking in a travel context. 27 things you need to know about BuzzFeed from Will Hayward, who's the VP for Europe. So it's such a phenomenon at the moment, BuzzFeed. I think we need to know more about it, how it works, how it's working its content, not just the happy stuff, but the serious review stuff as well. Some other headliners, I'll be a bit more specific in a bit. We've got Airbnb on the Wednesday, 1:15, Oliver Gremillon, who's the Managing Director of Europe. So he'll be very interesting because that's obviously with Uber, the two disruptors everybody keeps talking about. We got Twitter finally to come and talk at WTM. It's taken us 3 years to persuade them that they need exposure, but now they're selling advertising. They all want to come and talk. So we've got Yves Desmond, who's head of travel strategy for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And on Thursday morning, very pleased to get Andy Mabbott, who's the managing director of FIFO. Do you know FIFO?
No.
Travel review site, or review site. Expedia started using them about 9 months ago, and so did Hotels.com. But they're authenticated. People who actually stay in properties then get the follow-up email and during the actual traveling, so they leave the reviews on there. So it's independent, authenticated reviews, which I think the travel industry is probably moving towards. You have to have independent, authenticated reviews these days. If you don't, it looks as though you're hiding something. And it's not TripAdvisor, which could be anybody under the sun. Now, my most exciting one, I think, Alistair, is 11:20 on Tuesday. I got Ben Scott Robertson, who's the head of mobile at Ordnance Survey. Now, if you think about this, travel, mapping, mobile, and Ordnance Survey with 250 years of history and contours and iconic pub signs and that sort of thing, is absolutely made for where travel's going to be in the next 2 years, I think. Mobile and mapping, live mapping as you're actually traveling. And Ben's interesting. He's come from a private sector. He's just hit 40. He's gone into the public sector for the first time because he believes this is the most interesting job you could possibly have on mobile at this stage. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts, but just as an adjunct to that, I've got Rod Plummer from a company called Shoot Hill, who are very clever techie people, and they've just created this app and site that measures live river and tidal gauges in 2,400 rivers in England and Wales. And not only that, they each of these rivers have a live Twitter account. And all the automated data is posted to an individual Twitter account for each river.
So how many rivers?
2,400. To their own Twitter account was a phenomenal thing. So he's going to be talking about mapping live. If you're a fisherman or a canoeist or a kayaker, you need to know this information. And it's all part of the live mapping thing, which I think is going to be a really interesting subject for the next year or two. Hello, Cohen.
I just muted you, Cohen. That's why you, because there was a lot of background noise in there. Hold on, let me just unmute you if I can. I'm not sure I can actually. How can I unmute you? Oh well, you have to do it yourself, I think, Matt Cohen. It should be up at the top of the screen. There we go.
Okay, there we are.
There we go. Welcome, Cohen.
That's brilliant.
Now, Cohen, I want to hear two things from you. Firstly, you and Rick were both in the same place trying to get on board here. So what was it that you did so that Rick can do the same?
I clicked on the invite that you sent in GBN. I didn't get any other invite.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Did you hear that, Rick? That's maybe the place to go. I'll try and send it to you again, Rick, and hopefully you'll get it in. And the second thing I wanted to know, Kelvin, was fill us in on your background, what it is you do.
Oh, I'm an ex-airline employee of about 14, maybe 15 years, and last 3 years I've been kind of trying to get airline staff into the right place, and when they go to a particular destination, so they know what to do, how to get from the airport to the city, and just giving them tips about if they don't make a flight, what to do next.
Excellent.
And,
okay.
Also, go ahead.
And one of the things that I was keen to get you on board for was that you've done all of these things many times over TBEX and World Travel Market and billions of others. So you've got plenty of ideas to share with people who maybe haven't done it at all or want to get the most out of both WTM and TBEX. So let me come to you in a moment. Steve, I just want to come back to you. With
Sure.
the Travel Perspective program, I'm quite surprised because I couldn't see all of this in one place on the World Travel Market site. It's a bigger program than I thought it was.
It's all up there. I hope it is anyway on the World Travel Market site. I haven't checked it for a week or two.
Is that partly because it's in sort of multiple venues? Because you're appearing not only in the smaller breakout rooms up in the upper corridors, but in that big theatre, aren't you?
Yeah, we're appearing in several venues this year. Should have put the details on the back of the T-shirt. We're upstairs in the South Gallery rooms on the Tuesday. We're on the main stage. We're on the main stage. We made it to the main stage, Alistair, on Wednesday.
Woohoo!
Thank you. And on Thursday, we're on the Germany stand.
Excellent.
Follow us around. You get a badge if you go to all three venues.
All right, I'm looking for that badge.
And table football, of course, Kerwin. See you there.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, I want to sign up for this. I want to beat Michael Ball at table football.
A lot of people do. Send me an email, Paul, and I'll get you on the list.
Great. Cheers.
Okay, we should say that this is World Travel Market. We should say that the point about World Travel Market is it runs from the Monday through to the Thursday, and the program that Steve at Travel Perspective are managing is in the social media track. I think
we're doing the social media bits.
Yeah, and it's on the various days during the course of the day, because World Travel Market itself runs nominally from 10 o'clock in the morning through till 6 in the evening, except this year it's actually going to deviate very, very slightly on the Wednesday, when it's going to stay open till, I think, 21:30, somewhere around there, because they're going to celebrate 35 years of World Travel Market. Steve, how many have you been to?
Oh, God. My current guys, this is my fourth in my current hat, but you know, crikey, I was doing this for Travel Weekly in 1991. It was doing the daily papers down there. You know, I thought I got out of it, escaped, but I'm back.
Me too. I did. I used to come up when I was a journalist on Devon Air Radio. I used to come up to London when it was at Olympia. I think the first one I did was 1988. And like you, I thought I got it down to a fine art over the years. I could go in on Monday morning and be out by the afternoon and have done everything I really wanted to do. But it seems to have crept back up the other way now. So last year I think I did all. Well, I was speaking on the fourth day, so I did all 4 days in the end. So yeah, still a lot. And I hadn't realised, because when I counted back, that means I've only done something like 20, I don't know, probably 6 or 7 or something like that.
Only 20?
Well, yeah. And 35 means they must have been going at Olympia for years before I got there. So yeah, very impressive. Okay.
25th anniversary of the wall falling as well on the 9th, on the Thursday, so they're probably staying open for that as well.
Oh right. Okay, that makes sense. Right. Here we are. We've got Rick finally. Hooray! There we go. Well done, Rick.
Hello, gentlemen.
Sorry, that was
Hey, Rick.
something.
Evening.
I think it's funny that my Gmail account put your Google Plus invite into spam.
Okay.
Do you think they know something we don't?
Yes, they do.
Not bad.
It's all those obscene links I've been sending out over the years. We've been talking about world travel market, and we'll continue just for a moment. Rick is joining us to talk about the TBEX conference that's coming up in Athens next week, and we'll preview that. Rick, though, are you coming to World Travel Market in November in London?
I am not, but we have two other people on our team who will be there. I have been before, obviously, and happy to chat about World Travel Market as well, if you care what my opinions on that are.
Absolutely. But absolutely. Okay, let's do it for it then. So we've been talking about the Travel Perspective program. I should at this point out that is it Melvin Kerwin rather who's making a. What have you got going on in the background?
Sounds like he's at a disco.
Just muted me on my mic again. I should just point out that there is also in that social media track a number of events that Oliver Gradwell's running for Travel Bloggers Unite. And they have, if you go again to the World Travel Market site, then you can find all of those events. They primarily are, I think, in the breakout rooms in the corridors, and the big one is on Thursday, because one of the things that World Travel Market have been very keen to do is to try and spread the goodies out, as it were, more evenly. Over the years, it's always been the case that Monday was the prime day, the press day, when only the basically exhibitors and their guests and press could get in, and that's the day on which the ministers of state for tourism and the CEOs of airlines, everybody else, turn up. Tuesday and Wednesday were always fairly strong days, but Thursday was kind of sort of the tail end, like it is with any conference, and people used to disappear away, and it was always sort of the fag end of the week. World Travel Market have been putting a lot of effort into trying to zazz it up, and one of the things that they have done is they've put a program of quite interesting talks in there, including a speed networking or a networking session between bloggers and the industry, and that's happening on the Thursday. Guys, for those of you who've been, let's start with perhaps with Dylan. You've been to World Travel Market. What's your top tip for people who haven't been before, who maybe have been but didn't feel they got the most out of it?
I'll tell you what, though, a lot of the tips that I would have are things that were talked about a couple of years ago when I also myself did a Google Hangout with a couple of people, Alistair being one of the people invited to come along, as well as Casey Mead from G Adventures, if memory serves me right. And so some of my actually, top tips were actually, bestowed upon me by these people who, have a lot more insight about the whole thing from the different perspectives, whether it's the travel journalists or the PR people. Shoes, particularly, was one that stands out. You've got to be doing a ridiculous amount of walking, and chances are it's going to take you about 20 minutes to get from one side of the hall to the other, and you've got to be running that track about 20 times a day, dashing between meetings and stands in different continents. So definitely wear comfortable shoes. I would say if you're coming in from a travel blogger's perspective, then definitely come in and try to have a very clear objective in mind if you're going to be speaking to DMOs and industry people. Definitely have things like media kit and stuff like that at the ready, and in particularly if you have any projects or anything going on, even though it's in its infantile stages, don't be afraid to go and tell people about it and say, I've got this thing working in the background that is not just my blog. So, give them that, give them a little bit of information, exchange the contacts, and do follow up later on. Chances are a lot of the industry and DMOs will be hearing a lot of pitches from travel bloggers. So anything that's going to make you stand out just a little bit would be extremely memorable for them. And by the end of the day, they're just people who are, stuck in a venue for 3-4 days, doing the same stuff, hoping to, find something a little bit more exciting to jazz up their day. So yeah, go in and charm them, per se. Definitely spend the first couple of days, go around and speak to all the DMOs and industry people you've previously worked with, and just reestablish the relationship, have a gentle catch up, ask them about their kids, how their spouses, things like that, and insert your own development and whatever's new happening in your life and your blog work. And so yeah, I'd say that some of those are my top tips, I guess. Definitely use the cloakroom in the press room. That's definitely one of the top tips, I guess, and use that space well too.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Reminding people to bring their business cards, obviously, but the idea of bringing their media packs as well is probably a good one. Paul, you like to take life easy. You're lying there on your bed even as we speak. How do you make it around a World Travel Market without tearing your hair out and getting stressed?
Well, I mean, it's really interesting listening to Dylan there, because this is only my actual second World Travel Market. So last year I was like a headless chicken, and this year I've been planning it for months. I've been securing meetings. I've warned Karen to wear flat shoes, so Dylan's right about the shoes, and I feel a lot more at ease with it. And I think, mentioning Oliver last year did a talk for people who are new to World Travel Market, which actually helped me. But I still think there's a lack of information out there. I think, especially for bloggers, I think just the sheer size of it is incomprehensible if you've never been. And I think securing meetings and having a plan, like Dylan mentioned, is really key. Because, as Dylan also mentioned, they're seeing so many people, and if you just rock up and introduce yourself, which can work, but if you haven't got that meeting secured, I think it's going to be pretty tricky to secure any kind of deals.
Do you have? Does anybody have an idea how many appointments one should make beforehand? I mean, my own personal preference is that on any day I won't make any more than 2 fixed appointments, because otherwise you just wind up to kind of chasing your tail, trying to get to places and always being late, and the person who's your meeting is late anyway because they're doing the same thing. So I'm just wondering, anybody got any views on how many appointments you should set up in advance? Cohen, you're very organised about this sort of thing. That's
Sorry about the music in the background, but the tea house is where I'm hanging out. So I kind of did a little differently, Alistair. I don't make meetings before I go. Now they have, there's a little thing that keeps telling me who's going to be there. And I think I've actually got 2 people who've said they want to speak to me. But normally I walk the floors and do the press conferences. Because when you do those, this is where you meet the influencers, and they're really willing to speak to you. So that's really one of the things that I would do. I agree with Dylan to get really good shoes, and because when you walk the floors, you get to meet the people. I think I met the tourism minister of Lebanon because I walked into the booth and the PR lady was there. She goes, "Well, would you like to speak to him?" And I said yes. And she said, "Just come back at." She told me what time to come back. And I've met a few other people, the CEO of one of the airlines like that. So it just depends on your approach. And that, I guess, that would be kind of my top tip. And make sure you do the press day. The press day is the most important day as a travel blogger that you should do.
Can I mention a couple of things, Alistair, as well?
Yeah.
So personally, I like to set as many meetings as possible with understanding to give yourself time to get from point A to point B, and also understanding how big the place is, if at all possible. Set your appointments up in a way so you're not walking too far and you're not running to one side of the building and then running back to the other side of the building and then running the other way again. Try to do it, and I love the way that World Travel Market has the space organized. You can really kind of work your way around the world
Yeah.
the way that the pavilions are set up. So I think that's brilliant the way
So
they
you
do
mean
that.
when you're planning to do meetings, then you're
Yes.
doing it sort of by territory. So you're going, okay, I'm going to do all the US stuff or all the North
Yeah,
America
I'll go
stuff.
from Asia over to Africa and then work
And then
my
by
way to
Tuesday
Europe and then
afternoon,
over
I'll
to
be
North
ready for.
America.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good
which
idea.
really makes sense.
Yeah.
Plus, if you're talking about a trip or if you're talking about planning something as a blogger, again, the conversation you just had with Thailand can sequence into the next the next conversation you're going to have with Singapore or Vietnam or whatever. So completely makes sense to do it that way. Another thing, Kerwin just said, press day is the most important day for bloggers. You should realize as a blogger that most of the people at WTM, both buyers and sellers, the people in the booths and the people in the aisles, are not there to talk to you. And you're really a bother to them. So that doesn't mean it's not worthwhile. It is very worthwhile to go, but you need to figure out how to navigate the booth, because there could be a stand with 50 people in it, some of the larger stands. There's one person you want to talk to in that stand. And how do you find your way through those other 49 people to get to the one person you want to talk to? I think that's a really, really important thing, especially if you don't have an appointment ahead of time, to come up and ask, who's the person who is responsible for social media, or who's a person in the booth who works with bloggers or works with the media. Is there anybody on the stand who does that? Sometimes you won't even get to talk to the person you want because they're not there, but you might get the name that you can follow up with later.
Quite often they leave their cards at the desk, and if they're not there, then at least you can get their card and contact them either in the next couple of days or afterwards.
And another really important tip for travel bloggers in particular, I would also ask for the marketing person, not just the PR person, because the little secret is PR people's job is to get you to write about them for free, and marketing people have budgets.
I think buzzword press officer.
Yeah, Steve, this must be very familiar to you. It is to me.
Yeah, just following on from Rick said there, he's absolutely right. I would make half the appointments you think you want to do, because you won't have time. You've got to build in time. And also, don't be disappointed when half the people you expect to see aren't there, because they've also been trapped in the Hong Kong section when they should have been in Iceland. So it's real hit and miss, world travel market. You'll see half the people you want to, and just don't overload your diary, because you won't be able to do it all. You'll just be running around anyway. It's not pleasurable then. You want to enjoy it. Soak it up.
We should say that for the benefit of bloggers who may be going for the first time, I mean, what you've got are, particularly for the larger countries, you'll have stands that are really quite enormous, Italy or even not a large country, let's say Croatia or somewhere. And what it will have in turn are a whole number of exhibitors, stakeholders, if you like, hoteliers and resort managers and people like that on the stand as well. So it is very daunting when you first walk onto a stand. The chances are, as Rick says, I mean, there'll be 50 people on there, and there's only one or two that you really want to be talking to. So it is a good idea to talk. Very often the stand, not all of them, but very often the stand will have a front desk, and if you ask there, then that's a good idea.
Alistair?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, your statement just prompted something in my head. I mean, if you can kind of see the proportionality as well, where you've got some stands that are more numerously regional rather than national. So Italy, for instance, and Spain tends to have a much bigger regional presence than the national. And so definitely try approaching some of the regional tourist boards which may be stronger than the national, especially in terms of the past history of working with travel bloggers and writers as well. So I would say, if you have a country in mind, do consider what kind of region you like to visit as well, instead of just generically the country, and that might help you focus on specific places to target.
Another thing that was just mentioned about the size of some of these stands, complete opposite of my previous point. If you go to a large stand like Spain, for example, it's really a pavilion with multiple different entities within that stand. It's not just the National Tourist Board of Spain or several regional tourist boards or even local city tourist boards. There are also hotel operators, tour operators, and other people in that stand. So there could be multiple different people that you want to talk to there that are representing completely different interests, and that's another thing to be aware of.
Let me just show you this. He said try to get back to the actual screen itself so I can see what I'm doing. Yeah, sorry, this is okay. This is not particularly important. This is the front door, as it were, at oh God, why can't I make this scroll across? Hold on, let me get rid of it there. What I was going to show you was here the. This is the, to give you a sense if you haven't been before, this is what they call the boulevard. This is the, can you see that to you? Am I showing it to you? Is it just
no, nothing?
Nothing. Oh, right, okay, let me get back to there and there. Oh, come on.
Are you trying to show the sea of people as you walk in from the train station?
The sea of people, is that, that should be going now.
There you go.
There you go. Right. Okay. So this is the what's called the boulevard, which is the area, literally the big sort of street between the two main halls, which will give somebody a sense of what it's like. This is inside one of the halls, and there, as we were saying, this is just Europe. You can see all those signs maybe down there. That just for that one colored section. So as Rick says, if you want to organize your meetings to all be in Europe for one, for the morning, and then the afternoon move on to North America, that's just looking down on one of the halls. But what I was hoping to show you, here we are. This is the first floor of the press office, and I mention it because there's a couple of things for first-timers to know. This is the cloakroom that Dylan was talking about when he said good idea to leave your stuff there. I would advise that you be prepared to not be able to do that, because it is notoriously full. It always fills up on the first morning. There's usually a queue of people stretching there to try and get in and drop off their bags. Not so bad on the other days, but if you can, try and bring stuff that you are prepared to walk around with. It's November, so you don't really want to be wearing a big coat. If it's a nice day, you're going to be lucky. But if you are going to wear a coat, wear a light one that you can maybe carry with you if you have to. And there are other coats obviously around the building. Yep.
Alistair?
Yep.
If you get there really early, there is no line.
Yeah. Okay. Kerwin is absolutely right. If you're not a lazy idle bastard like me and you get in early enough, then it's absolutely fine. Here, by the way, this is people meet up here, so the social area. There's a little coffee bar there, and the trick is when you first come in. I think there's a here we are. Here's the entrance. This is in the boulevard. When you first come in, you go up an escalator and you arrive at this floor. But if you go up the next escalator to the upper floor, you'll find up there all the information. There's a bag you get with the directory, and there's a media guide that tells you what all the press conferences are and things like that. What you can do is just say to them, look, I just want the media thing, which is a small little booklet. I don't want the big heavy booklet. I'll get that on Thursday when I leave. And they're totally across that. They understand all of that. But most importantly, they'll also give you a little voucher, which you can use just here to get yourself your first free coffee. That sets you up for the day, and then you can move on. There are also, and this is one of the other points about getting under the skin of World Travel Market. This is one of the press conference rooms actually on that floor we've just left. And there's another even bigger one called the Platinum Suite upstairs. And they're very handy, as Steve says, for meeting up with serious players and influencers in the industry. Not least because if you attend these things, you ask a couple of maybe intelligent questions. The PRs for that organisation will be hovering around, will be very keen to find out who you are and maybe connect you up with people. So it's a very useful thing to do. And what you should do, if you can, on the upper floor, this is the press working room. You can come up here, plonk your laptop down here. It's got free Wi-Fi, work from here. But there's always up here a rack. You can see it in the background there of press releases. And one of the first things I do, and Steve, you may know this as well, if you go to that rack, it's usually got world travel market trends, things that, themes that are coming up for the year, usually it's based on statistics and stuff like that. And if you go there, and in the preceding room where all the exhibitors put their press releases, and just have a quick wade through, quite often you can find stuff that's really interesting right up your street. And then you go down to the stand, as we were talking about before, the stand that Rick was describing, go up to the front desk, wave the press release at them, and go, can you tell me about this? Have you got your marketing manager or somebody who can fill me in on this? And that's always a great way to get in, as it were, through the door. So anybody else got any thoughts on the practicalities there?
I'm assured that the Wi-Fi has been cracked this year.
General Wi-Fi has been cracked?
Apparently so. Yeah, it's only 2 years ago, we're having to pay in the meeting rooms for sort of 20 or 30 accesses to the Wi-Fi, which is not World Travel Markets, it's Excels, it's the conference event organisers, as Rick will understand. But apparently Excel have managed to Wi-Fi the whole place this year, and nobody will have any problem. So give it till about 10 past 10 on Monday.
We'll find out, as Rick said.
Alistair?
Yes.
I would say. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kerwin.
Oh, sorry, Rick. If you need a bit of fresh air, you go up to where the meeting rooms are, and some of the doors open out to the river, and you can get a little fresh air, and you can actually see. I'm an airline geek, so it's a perfect place to see the planes come in.
Yeah.
But it's also a great view of London.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You want to do that when you're going to an event in the South Gallery, because it's the South Gallery that gets the sun, and B, looks out over the London City Airport. The North Gallery also has balconies, but they're not so interesting.
Quick one, Rick. There's a cafe at the base of Excel on the south side, facing onto the water, which is not very well used because not many people know about it. Don't go down the steps at the bottom. Really good place.
I've been to that one.
Yeah.
And there's pretty good food down there.
Not bad.
Yes, one thing again that surprises people when they first go is that, of course, the Boulevard in particular usually has a huge range of food, kind of mirroring the global diets that are attending. So you can get pretty much anything you fancy at World Travel Market.
Another thing, Kerwin mentioned going to the press conferences is a good place to kind of find the people you're looking for in that ocean of, 50, 60,000 people there at World Travel Market. Steve's sessions and also the sessions run by Oliver are another good place to kind of find the people you're looking for. We've all kind of self-selected. We know when Twitter's speaking or BuzzFeed, people like us are going to go there. And so also PR folks and marketing folks who want to meet people like us are also going to go there. So it's a really good idea to make time to go to those sessions, even if you already know what the speaker's talking about and you're not going to learn anything there, just to meet the people in the room.
Good point. Anybody using the World Travel Market app?
I haven't downloaded it yet.
Nope, not yet.
I do try and use it each year, but it's a bit of a faff because it updates all the time, and it's always forever wanting to update and being very sluggish about it. But I'm trying to make it work. So maybe TBEX will have a whizzy TBEX app that will have all the show information and so on. Let's turn to TBEX now. Rick, tell us what's happening.
We'll have a couple of travel bloggers there. And we'll be in Athens, so it'll be fun. We do have an app. I'm not a huge fan of event apps to begin with. It does help a little bit if the Wi-Fi is not working and you can download and your app's using stuff locally where you can maybe find a map or find a session or something like that. But I don't think they've perfected, unless any of you have ever seen an app in an event that you really loved. I've found one that I've grudgingly found the information I'm looking for, but never anything that's fantastic. But as far as TBEX, I mean, we'll have about 800 people there. Travel bloggers, travel brands, obviously PRs and marketing people who are specifically there looking to connect with travel bloggers. Lots of sessions where we're talking about how to create, distribute, monetize content, and how travel bloggers and the travel industry can work together effectively in this ever-changing world of new media that we live in.
That sounds as if it's more than last year's TBEX Europe in Dublin, which I think was around 600, wasn't it? Have we grown?
Yes, we have. It was 670 some odd, and we didn't have any more room in the building. That was all they could really hold. We've got a gigantic building in Athens, because we travel from place to place. We every year is a new challenge of what the logistics are of the building. So this year, the building is called the Megaron. It sounds big. It is big.
Sounds like a
And,
transformer.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it turns into a robot at the end of the day.
So,
but it's in the middle of the city. It's very easy to walk to. All Athens. I don't know if all of you have been. I went for the first time a few months back for a site visit. It's the biggest city in Greece. I think 2/3 of the country's population live in Athens, but it is very easy to get around. They've got a fantastic metro that they built for the Olympics a couple years ago, and everywhere you turn there are artifacts. The young people, they say, are upset because every time they try to build something, they're like, oh, there's some more historical artifacts. We have to stop everything and seal that off. But amazing food, which again I wasn't realizing it. Everybody speaks English there, so if you speak English, it's a really easy place to get around. And ask directions if you get lost. It's a very walkable city, and of course the Acropolis is the centerpiece you can see from pretty much everywhere you go all over town.
Yes, that must make it easy to navigate.
Yeah, and for a writer, the amount of content you can get in that city is just endless. There's so much history and stuff to talk about there, and then it's a great Athens. What they told us when we selected the city, the reason they wanted us to come there is the average visitor actually only stays 1 day in the city of Athens because the people are coming to cruise the islands, and so the boat stops in the port, people run into town, and they're back on the boat by the night and off they go. Their goal is to get people to stay 2 days instead of 1, and I could easily stay there for a week or 2 weeks, or an extended period of time. There's just so much to see there that I think a lot of people miss what it all has to offer if they're taking a cruise and hopping off for a day.
It kicks off next week, although I think there are some people already there, aren't there?
There right now.
Yeah.
which is part of TBEX, right? There are people who go for themselves and organize their own little trips, and then we have our own official kind of pre and post trips that the destination helps us organize, and local tour operators. But yeah, they're I will leave on Monday. We'll get there on Tuesday, and then we'll be there until about 5 or 6 days after the event as ourselves.
I remember last year in Dublin, there were several people, Chris Richardson and Isabel Kennis. No, actually, Isabel Richardson, I suppose she is now. They're married. We're doing the whole. Is it the Atlantic Way? We're going all the way around.
The Wild Atlantic Way.
Yeah, and coming back into Dublin. So I guess there are people doing the same thing for Athens. What's the state of play for anybody who maybe is finding about this for the first time or being encouraged about what we're talking about? Is it still possible to go? Are there still tickets? How can you?
We've got this Megaron, gigantic transformer building, so yes, we still have room to sell more tickets. I think we are sold out of tables for sponsors. We've used all of that space, and we've got more sponsors than we had last year, so more brands for the bloggers to talk to. So yeah, please come. You can come right up on site. We'll take your money.
Okay, I'm just putting the TBEX Europe URL up on the screen for those watching, so you can click on that and go straight to it. For those, I'm really thinking that the majority of people who are going to be watching us are already going. What's going to be there for us this year in the way of speakers and highlights?
Well, in Cancun, one of the, I wouldn't say unexpected highlights, but it was better than we thought it would be, was Paula Froelich from Yahoo Travel interviewing Lee Abamonte and Sherry Ott, and everyone loved Paula. She's the editor of Yahoo Travel, the new editor of Yahoo Travel. So we asked her to come back and interview Captain and Clark. So if you haven't seen Paula speak, I would definitely come see that in particular. We have Gary Arndt, of course, speaking. One of the new things we have this year are workshops that we've expanded on. We played with them a little bit last year, and we're doing much more in-depth this year, full-day paid workshops the day before. We're doing a writing workshop with David Farley. We're doing a video workshop. We're doing a photo workshop. I know the writing and the video workshop are both sold out. We do have the photo workshop with David Lawrence and the technology workshop, which is basically the nuts and bolts of how to manage your blog or your website with Mitch Cantor. We do have room in both of those, and I would tell any blogger or even any brand that has had any challenges with your WordPress site in particular, go to that workshop. Mitch is a genius. He speaks at our New Media Expo event. His room is always standing room only. People always walk out of that room saying, oh my God, I just learned something I've been trying to figure out for years. So I would highly, highly recommend that session. And then we'll have a party at a place called the Technopolis. There's a lot of places called Opolis in Athens, and I think all over Greece. Which was an old coal-fired gas factory that they've now turned into this kind of festival place where they have a lot of concerts. It's really cool, and you can still go walk into some of the chambers where they threw the coal in there, and you can still smell it. And then Expedia, of course, will be having an evening event, and then we're going to have kind of a bit of a pub crawl the last night. What's that?
I'd say, bless them, what would we do without Expedia? They're such good sponsors of so many blogger events.
Yes.
You have to really take your hat off to them. They're always fully engaged with bloggers and always really interested in what bloggers are doing.
And the beautiful thing about a brand like Expedia doing that is other brands pay attention to them. And they see them doing so much, and they're like, maybe we should be doing some of this too. So we very much appreciate their support.
It's interesting to see that Expedia has actually used TBEX or TBEX events in the past to launch some of their new campaigns and services in Keystone, for instance.
Yeah, that's right. They have. By the way, one other speaker, Mary Jo, just reminded me to mention, and maybe I left him off my list because we announced him so long ago. Robert Reed, now of National Geographic for Lonely Planet So Long, will be our closing keynote speaker. We're really excited to have him this year too.
So which is the opening and which is the closing?
The opening is going to be Jaume Marin and Chris Christensen. Jaume's with Costa Brava Tourist Board, and obviously one of the people on the DMO side who really understands how to work with travel bloggers. Then Captain and Clark will be the one with Paula, and then Robert Reed will be the closing.
Hands up, everybody in the what's called the film strip in a hangout. Hands up, everybody who loves Jaume.
Can I get 2 hands up at that show?
Yeah, anybody who knows him loves him.
It's a fun guy.
And he's absolutely the preeminent example of how a DMO can work with bloggers. I mean, he's been doing it now for a long time and takes it to the nth degree and really understands how it works.
I would be curious for the group. I've told people, but obviously I work with him in a different capacity. I think Jaume and his team, because it's not just him, are maybe the best DMO in the world when it comes to working with travel bloggers. I'd be curious what Keith and Kerwin and other bloggers think about that, if they would agree with that, or maybe they don't want to offend other DMOs. But
I'll say that he's the pioneer of the whole working with bloggers. But some people have actually corrected me and said that this is kind of more in the European arena rather than worldwide overall. But from where I can see from all the the past examples and the case studies, he's the one that stands out the most out of them all. And I think a lot of current DMO relations partnerships with bloggers has actually sprang from Jaume's willingness to work with bloggers in the first place.
I think he's gold dust. The one thing I've seen about Jaume, which I haven't seen from anybody else, is this ability as well to deflect the glory away from himself. And yes, onto his team, but also onto the people of his region. These are the heroes. These are the people who are making it work for you. It's not me. It's not the tourist board. And he gets that enthusiasm imbued in people to realize, God, we can do it. We can do it. And it's not necessarily a tourist board that needs to do it for them. And I think that magic of his to be able to defray it away from himself and enthuse other people is quite something.
It's always a joy to find DMOs who get it and understand it. And for you, Rick, it must be similarly a process of sort of joyous discovery when you go into a host city like Athens and find some of those pearls in amongst the people that you're working with. I mean, who are you going to be most keen for us delegates to meet and to follow?
For me, there are a bunch of them. So, Expedia is somebody that we've talked about. What's interesting this year, MSC Cruises has been a sponsor for TBEX for a couple of years now, but cruise lines have come out of the woodworks this last year for us. Royal Caribbean seems to be very, very interested in speaking with bloggers. They're not a sponsor this year, but also Holland America also seems to be very interested in speaking with bloggers. So it's interesting how that whole category seems to have embraced travel blogging at the same time. There's actually a blogger for Carnival Cruise Lines, I'm forgetting his name now, that we really like to have as a speaker. Yeah.
It's funny that should be the case, because that's the one sector which was sort of ahead of the game, largely as a result of what John Heald did all those years back, and tribute to Mickey Arison and the rest of Carnival for letting him have his head of steam, because so many companies would have been very wary about somebody becoming the public face of their company in the way that John did for so many people.
And he doesn't always say what they want him to say, right?
Yeah, it's really, really dangerous stuff. But he really opened that up, and they really got on it. And likewise, Royal Caribbean have been very active particularly with their sector, with Cruise Critic and bloggers Gary, for example, the ones who specialise in cruising. So it's very interesting they should now, at this kind of late stage, come back round to looking at a more general range of travel bloggers, and very well.
Another cruise line, by the way, I left off, DFDS, has also been a long-time TBEX sponsor. I know they do a lot with travel bloggers. House Trip, although I'm not sure what's happening now. I'm sure you all know Ryan just left, and
No.
right after his talk in Cancun.
Huh.
But they've been. I don't know yet. Just that he had left, and G Adventures again, obviously super active with bloggers. And somebody else over in the UK, I think we should mention, is 4BGB, is a PR company that, again, has been reaching out to bloggers for a long time. They speak, I think, every year at World Travel Market. I saw Debbie speak a couple years ago, and they've been not just working with travel bloggers on their own, but evangelizing to the rest of the travel industry that they should be doing the same. And I think our community should reward people like that and recognize when they do those kind of things for us.
They have a presence. In fact, several of those names that you mentioned do have a presence at most of these events. So I know that, for example, BGB have been they were at Blogfest recently. That was the sort of spin-off from Traverse. They were at Traverse as well. DFDS was sponsoring at Traverse. They were all at Social Travel Summit in Leipzig this year. Ryan was there from House Trip. Those same people, they're very consistent, and they do come back. I was trying to think of the guy you mentioned, MSC Cruises. It's David Aracif, isn't it? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and because he was there in Leipzig again. They're a very very strong bunch of innovators. But what I'm wondering, Rick, is whether you're seeing signs now, in fact, any of you, of that message spreading, because although people like Debbie Hindle really do evangelize, there are a lot of the same faces and the same people involved, Expedia and the like, and not enough of the others come in. Are you seeing enough new companies beginning to take an interest in becoming active?
I'd be curious what the bloggers have to say before I
For me personally, I think
them with my opinion.
I think definitely yes. Even the companies I've approached individually, a lot more companies really want to work with bloggers. Especially when I was in Mexico, I approached so many different smaller companies, and they all wanted to work with us. So on a personal level, I say yes, definitely a lot more.
Kerwin?
I'd agree with Paul as well. I think it's getting slow, but things like TBEX are helping. In Cancun, a lot of the local companies really wanted to help. I know, just to say cheers to Jame and his team, they were really good. And as most bloggers will find, the folks in Athens are really, really good. They're always smiling. They want to help you. They want to show you what's going on. So I think as we continue, we'll definitely get more people on board.
I'd like to... Rick.
Well, I'll just say I absolutely see more and more. We see it just by the people who are sponsoring TBEX. They're putting money into sponsoring our event. That's a definite sign. And obviously, if they're spending money to work with bloggers, that's a definite sign. And World Travel Market, by the way, they get credit, and so does ITB. Both of them, we've worked with ITB. World Travel Market has worked with Oliver. They've worked with Steve for several years now. I mean, they see that there is value here, and so it's not just a couple of people kind of shouting out in the woods. That at the very highest level, there are people in the travel industry who are saying this is the future. And when we went to Mexico, we did that on purpose. We hadn't been to Latin America yet. And we could see, as we got closer and closer to the event, the local tourism industry, not just the CVB, starting to get it and starting to understand. Again, there are leaders down there like the Xcaret people. I mean, they threw a fabulous party for us. But when the bloggers actually got to the show and the local hotel operators and tour operators and attractions got to meet people, you could see their eyes lighting up and realizing, wow, this is a great opportunity for us to tell our story in a way we've never told it before. And again, with Athens, when we met with them, they were so frustrated with the way traditional media had covered Athens and Greece as a whole because of the economic problems. Mm-hmm. And we've all saw, and I remember seeing them on TV all the time, riots in Greece and things are going crazy. And they took us to the square at the mayor's office and they said, all these riots you see on TV, they all happen right here. It's in a one-block area, and there's nothing else happening anywhere else in the city. And they felt it was very unfair the way they were treated by the traditional media, and it really hurt tourism to the city because they were portrayed in a way that wasn't accurate. And so their tourism actually dropped off after that because the media was playing up this, it's not safe, there's riots, and then corporate events that had planned to come canceled because they'd heard so many bad things. Yeah. So they think bloggers allow them to tell their story in a much more authentic and truthful way, which is a pretty surprising thing, right? Because bloggers always get the knock from traditional media that, we're just guns for hire and we'll say anything you want us to say, where a lot of the DMOs and brands feel that the media is not telling the accurate story.
And the bloggers, for the most part, are in a sense working live, and it's hard to fabricate live. If you're when you're there and you're taking video and you're taking photographs and the rest, it's it's not something you can easily fake. So yeah, I'm totally across that. I was very struck when you started talking about Athens, Rick. You said the one thing that they're trying to get across is that everybody passes through Athens in transit, and they want people to stay for 2 days. That's the drive. That's what they're going to be all the time, kind of drawing our attention to, is it?
And when you think about it, that would double their tourism spend. Mm-hmm. If you're spending 1 day and now you spend 2 days, you've just doubled your tourism spend. That makes complete sense. But I guess most people, when they go to Greece, they're there to tour the islands, and that's what they're doing. Yeah. And I'm a history buff, so I was voting for Greece early on, and Athens in particular, because everywhere you turn, there's this 3,000, 4,000, 5,000-year-old history. Yeah. I can't believe they took us to a place called Messini, where anybody who's seen the movie Troy, if you're familiar with that story at all, that's where Agamemnon, the king at the time, lived, and they took us to his house. It was just unbelievable that you can feel
the real stuff.
The ghosts of the history there.
Yeah, Marathon what we all, the marathon that we all know is a place. It's just outside Athens, and it's where they used to run from. That's what the marathon.
And the word Nike, if anybody knows that story, is the marathon runner ran from Marathon back to the city of Athens and said one word, Nike, which means victory, and dropped dead, and that's where the word marathon comes from. So, yeah, they took me into the city council office and the mayor's office, and I know some bloggers will get to go there, and they've got a mural on the wall, kind of telling this history of the Battle of Marathon. It's amazing.
It is fantastic. I'm so looking forward to it. The one you've just had in Cancun, we're all aware that it kind of started off under a cloud with you had a constant controversy, and you must be delighted that this time round that you're not being deflected in any way. I mean, because it's all good, isn't it?
So far, I don't know if they ride any animals or anything in Athens that we're unaware of yet, but yeah, we haven't had much of that.
Excellent. Okay, guys, we're just past the hour. That's enough for anybody, I think. So we'll call it a day there. Rick, is there anything that Mary Jo is going to chastise you for not having mentioned?
I'm sure quite a bit.
Okay. Well, we'll just have to let me know if there is something serious. Let me know, and I'll stick it in the notes maybe.
All right.
We haven't had any questions come in, but that's probably my fault because I haven't really been plugging it, so it's too late now anyway. Guys, thank you ever so much. Whose hands up? Everybody's going to TBEX?
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. So we're all okay.
We'll reconvene.
Fantastic.
I am intending, by the way, to do some pop-up hangouts if I get the chance while I'm out there. So I'll say now that for next week, next Wednesday, there won't be an edition of the Travel Coffee Break because I'll be in Athens. Actually, we're just landing in Athens. So look out for the pop-ups. Like I say, when I get the chance, I'll do some little sort of quick interview style things, and I'll tell people beforehand. I'll alert them through the Travel Coffee Break G+ page, so you can actually join the panel if you want to.
Alistair, I just did think of one thing. I apologize that Mary Jo will definitely chastise me for, that I should say. We will be announcing multiple TBEX events for 2015 in Athens.
Yay. Woohoo!
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. That's just a tease, isn't it? I mean, you could.
That is a tease, right?
Yes. What you're telling us is. Oh, anyway.
I'll tell you one other thing.
Well,
we will be going to a new place in the world that we've never been to before in 2015.
South America?
A new
We'll
continent.
find out.
A new continent.
A new continent, yes.
Oh. Well, I guessed on Athens last year in Dublin. I spoke to you, Rick, in the pub on the last day of TBEX. So I'm going to guess South Africa now. I'm going to lay off my hat.
And Paul, I'll tell you, you guessed that before we'd even spoke to them, so good job.
I know.
I'm going to say Rio.
You're going to say, I say South Africa.
I think Rio sounds good.
All good choices.
Okay. I will, of course, next week when I do a pop-up, I'll pin Rick to the wall and interview him, and we'll get the truth out of him there, the announcement out of him there. So do watch the Travel Coffee Break whenever it pops up. In the meanwhile, we didn't get everybody's lower thirds up, so I'll just say that from Dylan Lowe, this is working from left to right in your film strip, from Dylan Lowe, from Cohen McKenzie, from Paul Ferrugia, from Rick Calvert, and from Steve Keenan, I'm sure it's bye from them, and from me, Alistair McKenzie, it's bye from me, and we'll see you sometime next week. Okay, bye.
Thanks, Alistair.
Cheers.
Thanks for having us on. Bye-bye.
Cheers.